Hey, welcome to another episode of the Dork Souls Podcast. This is the podcast where the dorkiest souls get together and nerd out. I'm one of your hosts, Hector Navarro.
And I am Lisa Wallen. And today we have a very special episode. We have our first guest ever, Anthony Carboni. We talk about sexual Garfield, Bill Nye the Science Guy. We talk about physical media versus digital. It's a really great episode, and he was a really awesome first guest. So I hope you guys enjoy having guests on this podcast.
And you're going to learn a lot. And please do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Patreon, where we're going to be having exclusive epis coming to you soon. And make sure that you're rating us on all of your preferred podcast platforms. Thanks so much, guys, and enjoy the episode. What is that voice? Is that what that voice is?
I need you here. You're kind of here, and I need you here.
It sounds like you're doing the It sounds like you're doing "Well, are you, princess?" Like that voice. Like, I see you. You can't escape me, princess. It sounds like you're doing that voice.
Excuse me, princess. Welcome to a new episode of Dork Souls Podcast with me, Lisa Wallen.
Don't break eye contact. Don't look over there.
Don't even look at Hector, actually.
And me, Hector Navarro.
Yes. How have you been? It's been a little bit.
Great.
You know? It's been a little bit.
Yeah,
What's new?
Yeah.
What's new in your life?
What's new in my life? Some pretty major life things, but I've also been.
But let's talk about the non-major.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not. Don't introduce me yet.
Yeah.
But but you said some very major life things.
Yeah.
And then skipped them.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Because this is the Dork Souls Podcast.
Right. No.
So,
okay. And once again, I'm not here yet. Please don't introduce me.
No.
But it feels like I would just leave that off the sentence.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that was my stalling technique. You know how some people say right. Or that's just me filling in the air with truth. And then I go, but actually, let's just avoid that. Now that I know what I want to talk about,
right?
Star Wars. I rewatched Andor. I'm watching Andor season 1 right now.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
I'm excited. I'm excited about whether you are or aren't. I've been really into getting back into the show Andor, which I think fucking rips. And there's the one thing I love and I hate about the show Andor is that there's no tie-in media. Meaning, if you like The Mandalorian, there's Mandalorian books and comic books and things you can read. If you like a Star Wars movie, same thing. There's side stuff. If you like an obscure Star Wars character, they've done a comic book.
It's just an original thing.
It's not that it's an original thing. It's an isolated thing.
I can tell how bad Anthony.
There's Anthony's like, I'm just gonna let this. Anthony's like, he's right. He is correct.
Now, once again, please don't introduce me. But
not yet.
I do want to I like sitting back and hearing.
Yeah.
I like to hear what people actually think because people don't always tell me what they really think
about
Star Wars.
And so
please,
is this authentic? Is this true for you?
It feels good. And once again, I'm not here. Just go on.
Right.
Yeah, we'll introduce you in 4 minutes.
Do people lie about their opinions about Star Wars to you? Is that what you're talking about? If you're if you're a famous celebrity. And they're like, oh, I loved everything you're in. That kind of thing where they're not going to be real with you?
I think there are two kinds of people. And once again, it's not time for me yet.
Not here.
But I will say that people are one of two ways. They either want to tell me how much they hate Star Wars.
Oh, no, I have no patience for that.
They want to be like, I love you and I love some Star, but I hate most Star Wars.
Get out of my face.
And I'm like, I don't, please, I would
can I tell you something?
This is a line for a restroom, sir. I don't need this.
But can I tell you something? I have been combative with those people in real life. I've shifted from oh, that's cool, man, to oh, you're dumb. No, I don't actually do that. But this is a true story. This is what happened to me maybe a month or two ago. I went to go see a comedy show. And then
that's your first mistake.
That's my first mistake.
Was it mine?
No, my first mistake is it was improv. No, it wasn't yours.
First one mistake wasn't mine.
You don't do improv, so that's why.
Oh,
you're correct. It was a mistake. Yeah, you're not funny enough to do improv, Lisa.
I'm sorry. Did you take you don't do improv as an insult?
Yeah, no, it's a compliment.
Speaking as somebody who did years of improv, and once again, I'm not here yet, but it means that somebody holds you in very high regard.
Exactly.
It's like going up to somebody and saying you go up to somebody and you say, one thing I like about you is you're not a DJ.
Yeah.
It's very rare in LA.
It's the same thing with improv. It's like, thank God that you're not a DJ or an improv comic.
That's right.
Because that means we can be friends.
So I went to go see this show and I'm outside afterwards. And this very nice woman comes up my age and she goes, hey, were you on Dropout? Were you on Actually? The nerdy trivia show on Dropout TV?
You were. And I
plug?
every time one of your clips comes up, I'm always like, dude, that was a good get.
Yeah.
Because whenever they show your clips, I'm always like, that was a good one, Hector.
Yeah.
I was very proud of you for getting that, Hector.
Thank you. So, and I go, yes, I was, because it came out like the day before. So then she goes, you were saying positive things about the Star Wars sequels. And I was like, I was.
What
and
a
I said,
weird way to introduce yourself to
no,
someone.
but it's not, because she looked at me, she goes, I've never seen anybody in a public space do that. And she goes, I really appreciated that you did that.
Hey.
Thank you for doing that.
That's
And
great.
but then here's what happened. I go, thank you so much. That's all. We're having a conversation. And I was like, I do get defensive about those movies because I love them. I love the actors in them. Like
Right.
and anytime I
But
hear.
she hates black people.
No. The opposite. She loves them. She loves them. She loves British white women. She
Okay.
loves Latinos.
Yes.
That's why she loves the Star Wars
Right.
sequels. That's it. And story and all that other bullshit. But then a funny thing happened is her husband came up, and also a same age guy. These are like two lovely hipsters, two nice looking white people. They come up. The husband is talking to me now. And I go, oh, are you a Star Wars fan too? And then he goes, like, he's about to say something. And then she interrupts and she goes, she goes, he didn't like the new ones. And then I turned to him like, what? And 2 seconds before too, like, this is my husband. Oh, okay, great. And then she said, like, we just got married like a little bit ago. I said, oh, congrats. They're newlyweds. Lisa, I literally said that because because their whole thing was like, he didn't really like them after this entire profession, this confession rather, of this woman being like, I love these movies. I've never heard anybody say positive things about them. By the way, here's my husband. By the way, he hated them because I was talking about the toxicity of the internet, And he was being very diplomatic and very nice. And he goes, yeah, I tried the first one and it wasn't really my thing, is what he said.
Great.
So he hates black people.
But as a joke, maybe to ease the tension, I did say like, oh, you didn't like those movies? Oh, you got to get a divorce. And they were like, like, I was like, oh, maybe but then I like tried to like recuperate and go, hey man, enough time has passed. You should go and give them another shot. And again, it just goes back to my original point and why I defend those movies is I go, if you grew up with some Star Wars and you love that stuff,
yeah,
keep in mind that it is full of flaws. All of it has flaws. Even Andor, like my favorite show, like they all have flaws. And if you're just not consistent with that across the board, then you're not doing those things you're not giving them a fair shot. You're doing them a disservice.
I think.
So anyway, I think they got divorced, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
in front of me.
They needed to.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, they needed to. No, I always, whenever people come up to me with that, the metaphor that I use, and once again, we'll get to me in a second.
Yeah.
But the metaphor that I always use is the first album you hear from any band is the way you expect the band to sound.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you meet somebody and you like go, oh, what's your favorite band? Okay, what's your favorite album of theirs?
Yep.
And you can tell when they became fans, right? And because I'll always go like, was that your first album that you heard?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a lot of like musicians that I really love where I want them to sound like that one album.
Yep.
Because I fell in love with that one album.
Yep.
And then it was kind of hard for me to hear them grow into something else or go back and hear what they grew from.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff can be hard.
Or even if you follow the band and you're like, I don't like their new stuff.
Yeah.
And then you really start picking apart, why don't I like it? Oh, it's because it's this, this, and this. If you go back and listen to the old stuff, sometimes that's there, but you're like, nah, but that's good. But that's good. Like, you're just defensive about it. You're like, no, but they were good then.
The only relation I have to this is literally yesterday, because this episode will be out in a month, I had my Zelda tattoos out in the open at a Nintendo event, and this guy walked up and he goes, oh my God, is that Zelda? I was like, yeah, it's actually Twilight Princess. He goes, that's my least favorite Zelda, but that's really cool. I'm like, you could have just said cool.
I know, man.
You could have said that's great. And then I was like, wait, what?
Lisa, just to defend that guy, Twilight Princess is a pretty boring game.
Oh, no.
And you know I'm a big Zelda guy.
So
I love all Zelda games.
Thank you, Anthony, for our guest
Oh,
today.
did you say my name? Oh, is it time to introduce me now?
Now, yeah.
No, now I'll introduce. But no,
the ultimate Zelda hater, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Carboni.
I did ask him. I was like, well, why is your least favorite? And he said because he didn't like Midna, which is the
Oh.
only
No,
reason.
Midna's the best part
That's
of that
what
game.
I was like, wait, Midna's the best part of that Zelda.
So he just hates women.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so
Yeah.
you just hate women. He was
Yeah.
like, no, I just didn't really like Midna. I thought she was annoying. I was like, oh, so you didn't play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you started it and was like, what is
Mm.
this green little goblin? I do not like her.
It's such a corny thing, but I always go back to Ted Lasso, the show Ted
Mhm.
Lasso, because that stupid, corny phrase got stuck in my head, and I really think about it all the time, which is be curious, not judgmental.
Yep.
When there are people who have those opinions, let me talk to you about how much I hate Star Wars because you're the Star Wars host guy. Let me tell you about how much I hate this. How
Another
about
intro.
instead,
We're
That's it.
slowly getting clues.
It's
If,
just-
Yeah.
if the audience can follow the breadcrumbs, they
Uh-huh.
might find out who I am before my actual
Uh-huh,
introduction.
uh-huh.
It's a bit of an escape room.
I want to save the introduction. See right there, it says 10 minutes, 29 seconds. I want
Yeah.
to save the introduction for 57 minutes, 12 seconds.
I love
That's
this.
what I want to go for.
I love this.
That's what I
Let's
wanna
do
go
it.
It's
for.
just the thing where it's like,
Be
listen,
curious.
I watch a lot of anime. There's a lot of popular anime I don't like, but I would never yuck someone's yum.
Or at the very least,
Unless they deserve it.
if this person truly loves Zelda and then
Mhm.
comes across a person in the wild who loves it enough to get a tattoo, why not ask this person?
Yeah.
Why not ask Lisa Wallen, why is Twilight Princess your favorite?
Yeah, that would have been my follow-up.
Oh
it would
my
have been
God.
like, you have a Zelda tattoo.
Zelda?
Yeah, it's Twilight Princess. Oh, is
Oh.
that one your favorite?
Yeah. Specific.
That's
You'd be
it?
like, this
Why-
one sucks.
And then
Why-
yeah,
yeah.
and then but what I'm doing is I'm getting you to say things, so I'm setting you up to take you out.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
think-
well, you're wrong.
Can I tell you, I do believe, and once again, who I am is a mystery.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't matter.
I do believe that our generation is responsible for this.
yes.
The building of the often
internet.
when I tell people,
and specifically Star Wars too, but I can get
yeah.
back to that. But yeah.
I think a lot about how early internet was prove your cred,
Yep.
get the answers right.
Yep.
I go back to Angry Video Game Nerd, who
Yep.
I don't have any issue with as a person, but it was never something that I enjoyed. It was never like, let me tell you or Cinema Sins.
Yeah.
I have no problem. I'm sure the people that run Cinema Sins are lovely people who love movies and
Sure.
have a lot of positive things to say,
Sure.
usually.
Sure.
But they found out that a really great way to make a popular internet channel
Being
is
reactive.
to go through and point out, here are all the things that are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've really turned that into sort of a badge of honor on the internet.
Yeah.
Here are all the things I can point to that don't work with continuity. Here are all the things that I can point to that are errors or that aren't done right or that I don't like for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've really seen with that is obviously this thing where it's like, I want to argue with you about these things that we love because that's how we show that we care.
Mm-hmm.
It's a breakdown of discourse that we've caused over the 10, 15 years of internet video.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I've noticed is it's also turned into a really rough time for media literacy in
Yep.
terms of episodic things, where an episode, if something isn't released in binge form now, every episode people will be like, well, here's everything that's wrong with that episode, and here are the questions that weren't answered, and here are the things. And I'm like, hey man, it's a series.
Show's not done.
Yeah.
The show's not done. If we get to the end of the series,
Also, calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if we get to the end of the series and they haven't answered that question, you can go, hey,
Fair.
did you notice they
Fair.
didn't answer that question? But I was noticing with things that were coming out every week, people would be like, they introduced this character and did nothing with them. I'm like, yo,
You don't know anything
pump
yet.
the brakes. Do you know that when TV used to come out once a week,
Mm-hmm.
And you had no one online to
Yeah.
argue with?
people have just kind of forgotten what an episode is.
We moved away from like growing up, I think pre-internet, this is how old we are. We're also old.
Yeah.
But pre-internet, it was like film criticism was in a big media way, Siskel and Ebert.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ebert and Roper.
Mhm.
And the Ebert school of film criticism,
And then Bert and Ernie.
and then Bert and Ernie, yes, and then Statler and Waldorf.
That's
and
right.
Then
And then
that's,
Naruto.
and then Waldorf.
Yes.
And then Waldorf and salad.
Yeah, well, yeah. Wait, what was that one again,
It said
Lisa?
Sasuke and Naruto.
Sasuke
That's
and
right.
Naruto,
There you
right?
go.
Producer Mark? Okay.
There we go.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Do you have an anime air horn that you can
Yeah.
push, Mark?
What he does? What he could do the Naruto catchphrase?
You know, this is like a really good topic for the podcast because we're probably gonna be criticizing a lot of shit.
Well, listen, because it's about this. Siskel and Ebert did ultimately thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yes.
And people would criticize that back in the day, like, oh, you're reducing everything to just thumbs up or thumb to that binary, which
Yes.
was kind of the precursor to like Rotten Tomatoes.
Mhm.
But then at least they had a show where they would talk about the thing and actually discuss what worked and what didn't work, and and all of that
And now
stuff.
you have
And we
people
moved
arguing
away from
about
that.
is 7 a good or a bad rating, and I'm like, guys, just
Oh my God.
find out yourself.
Hey, you know what?
You know?
Really, what bugs me too is they've been releasing some footage from a little scene or two moment from the new Superman movie that hasn't come out yet.
Yes.
And in this footage,
I personally love every
Yeah.
scene that's coming out. I personally love
Yeah.
it all.
I don't know if you've seen any of that, Lisa, but Superman is a comic book character who has a red cape.
I thought
and
he was
he's
from an anime.
DC Comics, which stands for
Detective Comics.
Detective Comics Comics.
That's
I'm
right.
learning.
That's
I'm
right.
learning.
That's
I'm
right. You got it.
learning.
So, but in the clip, Superman's dog, who also has superpowers because he's also from Krypton, like jumps around on Superman because he's playing with him, but Superman's really hurt. So he's like, oh, come on, Crypto, don't, Crypto. But he's jumping around on him. And the internet was so mad that Crypto was doing this.
That's what dogs do.
First of all, that's what dogs do. Secondly, it's like, you're mad that this dog is untrained. Do you have no imagination for where a story arc could go with the character of Crypto?
Yeah.
It's like people want episode 1, moment 1, all of these characters to be fully formed and perfect in
Yeah.
every piece of media that they're experiencing. A TV show. Why did Daredevil do this? Dude, it's a story arc. That why isn't he in the suit?
Let's find out.
Let's find out.
Hey, let's find out
Together.
everybody.
Hey, you know, we should introduce our guest.
You know,
Well,
listen.
we got about-
go another.
we got about 45 minutes.
We
I don't
got
know.
45 minutes. No, we should do an introduction
You wanna
because
do
I
it?
feel like
Let's do
this
it.
is a good segue into our topic today because we're going to be talking about some dorky shit and we're probably going to be criticizing it.
Okay.
But you know what? I'll have you do the honor
Okay.
because you like Anthony way more than I do. So I'll have you.
That's very
No,
could be true. Could be true. Folks, our guest today is a dear friend of mine and an acquaintance of Lisa's. A professional acquaintance of Lisa's. He is a longtime nerd and geek host in the internet space and on television and all the different places. He's the daddy of Dagger, who's the greatest dog in the
And
world.
he's our space grandpa.
And he's our space zaddy.
Wow.
Wow.
Anthony Carboni is on the
Wow.
show today.
Is Space Zaddy better or worse? Like, what is the
Oh,
is
much
the
better.
10-point
It is-
attractiveness scale? Like, okay,
Yeah,
so
much
Zaddy
better.
is salt and pepper.
LA 6,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
New York 8.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Space zaddy.
Space Zaddy is that
Two.
better or worse
That's
Better.
than Earth Zaddy?
Yeah.
Has Edward James Olmos ever been hotter than he was in Battlestar Galactica? Answer no. He didn't get hot until Battlestar Galactica. Space zaddy. Space makes you
You
hotter.
didn't think he was hot in Stand and Deliver?
No way.
Space-
Jose.
Space
Selena's dad?
Space Daddy would be gross. Space Zaddy means you
Mm.
have like a
That's-
pipe
that's
and a
Vegeta.
robe. Yeah, yeah.
Space
there's-
Zaddy is
yeah.
Vegeta.
You got a pipe robe, some salt and pepper in your hair.
Can I tell you something that's going to
Yeah.
make you hate me as anime fan?
I already, yeah.
I already
Okay.
hate you, she says.
Um, I first grew up with the first Vegeta voice, not Christopher,
Oh,
but
wow.
the first one. The Kakarot, I'm here to destroy you.
Mm.
And now whenever I hear Christopher, who is amazing
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
he
perfect.
voices everyone.
and he's brilliant, I go, that's not Vegeta.
I mean, that's like me with, I grew up on Sailor Moon where Serena was Serena and
Mhm.
not Usagi or Bunny.
Bunny,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they were like,
Oh.
we're going to, and like, so I had all of the lore wrong.
Yeah.
I watched Sailor Moon dubbed growing up, and then I rewatched the sub. And I said, "This is an entirely different anime."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cardcaptor Sakura.
They were roommates.
Yeah.
They were literally
They were
roommates.
roommates. Yeah,
In Sailor
Yeah.
Moon, Pluto and Jupiter are like literally roommates in the American version, and in the Japanese version, it's like, no, they're
together
They're
together?
together.
That's great.
And they have their
they
shit together,
gay,
and
yeah.
they're gay, and
gay.
they own a home, and everybody looks up to them.
Have you seen that clip going around of I think it was an interview, I can't remember if it was
With a
Japanese
vampire?
news. Interview with a vampire, pretty good.
Mhm.
great anime.
Great anime. But
Best
it's
anime.
the creator of the Sailor Moon manga. They interview her. I think it must have been Japanese news media from 20 years ago or whatever. But they're like, she's been doing it for like 20 years or
Yeah.
whatever.
You know
and
who
it's,
she's married to?
who?
Tagashi, the manga writer artist of Hunter x Hunter.
That's cool.
That's royalty,
What
dude.
a fucking power couple,
Yeah,
That's
right?
dude.
royalty.
I love that stuff. That's crazy.
They walk down the street and people are sweeping in
Oh
front
my
of them.
God, I can imagine.
They're just like, don't let a speck of dust touch these two.
They
They're
haven't,
perfect.
they haven't paid for a meal since 1997.
As well, they
There you
shouldn't.
go.
As well, they shouldn't.
It's like Kurt Cobain's daughter marrying Tony Hawk's son. You know what
Bro.
I mean?
Do you
There
know who
go.
officiated that wedding?
Who?
Michael Stipe from REM.
Of course,
Really?
that happened.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
He's her stepfather.
At the,
or her godfather.
at the last convention, this is funny, and this also relates to you, Anthony.
Mhm.
At the last convention in Phoenix,
Yeah.
Tony Hawk was a guest there.
Oh yeah.
So Abby and I were in the break room, and Tony Hawk was in there, and just on his phone.
You're
and
like,
I-
that guy looks like Tony Hawk.
No. Instead, I heard another person come up, kind of introduce themselves to like a couple of people there. Some of the people work for the convention, and then they get to Tony Hawk, and they're like, "Hi, my name's so and so. What's your name?" And he said Anthony, and he's like, "All right, great to meet you," and then walked
Anthony
away.
Hawk.
And I was like, "Mr. Hawk did not want somebody to
Well, you know,
register
he
that
was-
that's Tony."
His full name is Anthony Michael Hawk.
Yeah,
And he's from Weird Science. And
Wait,
he was also in the
Uh-huh.
Dead
are
Zone.
you not aware
and
of the meme though? The Tony Hawk meme?
absolutely. That you look like Tony
Yeah,
Hawk.
you look like
Yeah,
Tony.
that's
He
what people
probably-
tell me.
I wonder if they were like doing the bit.
No, they were not.
Oh,
I could
no.
tell. I could tell. I could tell this person just did not know who that was.
Yeah.
And when Tony Hawk said Anthony, that like I don't think Tony Hawk expected the person to go, "Hey, no, you're," you know.
No,
I think
no offense to Abby, but I think Tony Hawk was the cool person hired for the weekend.
100%. 100%.
I do like that Tony Hawk at some point in his personal life
Mhm.
aged into being an Anthony and simply cannot be in public.
I know
Mhm.
this is a very odd question to ask, but I always wondered how people like you are like, why do you go by Anthony, not Tony? Like that's not, like
oh,
that's
yeah.
always a question I want to ask.
Do you know what's funny is I had a teacher, I was like 11 years old, and I had a teacher who was like, "Oh, do you go by Anthony or Tony?"
Tony
And I was
Carboni?
like, I don't care. And he's like, he looked at me and he's like, "My first name's Anthony, and I'm telling you, one day you're gonna care a lot." And I was like, whoa, okay.
That's intense.
Damn.
And it's true. I do. To the point where like, and it's not because of the Tony Carboni thing. Like that I think is cute.
Tony Carboni.
It is
But-
pretty damn cute.
It just is something where it like clicked in my head. Like I don't feel like a Tony.
Mm.
I don't identify as a Tony.
Mhm, mhm,
You're definitely an Anthony.
Yeah. And like when people meet me, they're like, "No, you're an Anthony."
mhm.
So yeah, I think that's, and then the other thing is the only people who call me Tony are people like my family or
Mhm.
people
And
who
Anthony
knew
Hawk.
me before I was like 9 years old.
Mhm.
And so if you say Tony, I don't even turn around. Like it doesn't register.
Yeah.
It's like a voice print identification to get into a room or something, or to like turn on the bat computer.
Yeah.
If somebody says Tony and it's the wrong voice, I simply don't recognize it.
I'm just gonna calling you Heck.
No. This happens every
Or
time.
Tor.
This happened. No,
I
it
am
happens-
Tor!
My name is Tor Navarro.
It happens every time. I am genuinely interested in people who have options for their names. You have an option. Lisa, you don't really have an option.
Weasel.
No, well,
But that's not a
I know,
generally
yeah,
accepted.
yeah.
but
Yeah.
people can, as a shorthand, they can call you Lise.
No.
I know that from The Simpsons.
Gross.
Yeah.
How
yeah.
big are you into Ghostbusters? Because you could be an ecto.
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 Drop the H, drop the R.
That's right.
You got an ecto cooler, baby.
You're an ecto
That's what
cooler.
we are. I just feel like I've never had options, and anytime I bring this up, people always go, "That's not true. I'll call you Heck." It never
That's
This
not
is-
a real
catches
nickname.
on.
This is the thing we're dorky
No.
about today is names.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
you really want to
Sure.
get into the dorky
I
stuff,
do.
don't you? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Is that okay?
All right.
Then
Of-
I want to do the podcast.
Of course it is, Lise. Of course it is.
Well,
Listen, I'll just say this. Anthony is our first guest ever.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
We're figuring this all
So
out.
we don't know what to do.
We don't know what to do right now, actually.
What do we ask him
Anthony,
about?
tell us.
His name?
Professional podcaster Anthony
Well,
Tony Carboni.
here's what I'll say.
We're doing good so far,
I
right?
was very yeah. You're doing great. You could get to the introduction maybe just a hair faster. That's maybe one note that I have. But
Okay.
Luckily, we do an
here's
intro. at
here's
the
what I
end.
will say.
Yeah.
Is I was very excited when you asked me to come on this show, but
Now you're not.
it was now I'm not. But it was a bit of a problem for me because I'm like a very chill and normal dude, and I like very chill and normal things a chill and normal amount.
Mm.
So
yeah,
I
you're
was
not
like,
a dork at all.
yeah.
No, that's not true.
So I
We were talking about the Sega Saturn down at the coffee shop before we
that's
came
a
up
chill
here.
and normal thing that
No.
cool guys talk
Yeah.
about.
No, not anymore.
Well, because I was okay, so I was thinking, what am I really dorky about? Like, what do I get really
I really
into?
when I was
Yeah.
like, if I even send this question, he might have a brain aneurysm.
Well, because it's what would people think I'm into, by talking to me versus what am I really into when you get down to it? Because like I'm into Garfield, but not in a way that you want to talk about on this show.
Oh, now I do.
Like
Now I do.
Now I do.
You just opened up the can. Of
Like, I'm
Garfield.
You're saying you're
Garfield.
not normal about it?
You're dorky
Normal's
about it?
a
I'm
character
Churla
from
Normal.
like,
You're not normal?
Normal's a
You've-
character from
You've
Garfield.
opened a can of lasagna. There you go.
So
Talking about it.
The way I'm into Garfield is I'm into like
The lore.
Garfield sub-communities on the internet.
Oh, maybe now I'm afraid of
Like
asking.
strange, deeper Garfield communities like I'm Sorry, John. Like, have you heard of I'm Sorry, John?
No, what is
Which
that?
is people who make Garfield horror, body horror
Oh,
comics.
yes. They're so cool, though.
Yeah, and it's all like Garfield is like this parasitic thing that is taken over John's life.
He's
like
like
John Carpenter's The
usually-
Thing?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of
Isn't
stuff
that
like
he's
that.
like schizophrenic?
Some of them.
Yeah.
There's some of them where Garfield is drawn as sort of like a soul style boss, like the Garfield like eater of lasagna, like destroyer of cartoonists, things like that.
I had no idea it went that far. I have heard about
Okay, well,
Garfield.
now I want to talk about Garfield.
Yeah, well, we're in it, baby. We're talking
Now
about
we're
it.
talking about
'Cause-
Garfield.
I've heard about Garfield minus Garfield, which
Yes.
is this great art project where people take a Garfield comic strip, a Sunday one usually, which are the ones in color, like 2 or 3 rows or whatever, and all they do is remove Garfield.
Yes.
So it's just
John
like
is talking to himself.
John
Yeah.
is talking to himself, and they're bleak,
Yeah.
and they're sad. They're like really like depressive, like
They can be,
existential.
yeah.
That I think is brilliant. I think that's so
it's
funny.
wonderful. That's been going for God. I want to say
Yeah.
that's been going for over a decade. There was
Yeah.
there was a YouTube channel, a very early YouTube channel called Lasagna Cat, which was somebody who would recreate the Garfield comics as live action bits somebody in a Garfield suit. And this
Oh.
was somebody who wound up working at Adult Swim and wound up being like a compositor and an animator and a showrunner.
They worked
but
on Too Many Cooks, probably.
but started off like very early on doing these things. And
Whoa.
one of the last Lasagna Cats is a literal 3-hour video where John gives birth to like a horrible Garfield monster in
That's
a public
crazy.
restroom.
That's crazy.
Like, this is the sort of Garfield I'm into. Like, my favorite Garfield art, because I have a lot of Garfield art. My favorite Garfield art that I own is a giant muscle daddy Garfield.
Hell yeah.
He was like 40 feet tall, and he's got like 8 nipples, and then crawling around him are tiny kitten-sized like bears from pop culture. Like Zangief is crawling around.
No.
And they're like crawling around and like suckling from his teat. And that's like, I
You
have
know
that.
what?
I have that when you walk into my apartment. It's one of the first things you see.
My only
Sounds
relation
hot.
to that
It's very
is
hot.
I did not play Undertale until I watched the deep dives of the sub fandom stuff and like
Okay.
all the fan art and all the stuff. I was like, I didn't realize how insane the Undertale fandom
Yeah.
was. I watched
Oh.
like 2 like hour-long videos just deep diving into how crazy the Undertale fandom
So
is,
was-
and that made me play the game. Is it
Mhm.
like
But
that
was
with
the-
Garfield?
Was the but
No,
was the
because when you're
game-
done, it's still just Garfield.
Yeah,
That's all there
yeah.
is to like.
Yeah.
You could go and you can watch the cartoon Garfield if you want to.
But it's not adding like an
yeah.
extra layer of
Undertale
of,
just really connected with the right autistic people.
yeah.
Or the
Let me-
wrong
let me-
autistic
Whereas
people.
Garfield has, I would argue, also connected with all the right autistic people. We're just not people you want to talk to.
I don't know
Like,
if I
we're
want.
just, you don't want to be.
Do you want to be
Listen,
around the Undertale fandom?
You want listen. You want to talk to the Undertale people. You want to talk to like the model train people. You don't
Yeah.
want to talk to the Garfield people. You don't want to
Yeah.
talk to us. It's
Is it? Can I ask you something? Because
Yeah.
I'm very curious about this, and I'm very passionate not about the Garfield fandom you're describing,
yeah,
but about the Shrek fandom. I'm very like
I
similar,
love the Shrek.
okay.
fandom,
That's what
though.
I was going to ask you.
similar, but not as dark. The Shrek fandom.
Yeah, I'm very protective of Shrek, and I get really angry.
Protective.
I am. I get really angry at the internet because they've memeified Shrek
Mm.
to where when people go, "I love Shrek," I'm always like, "No, you don't."
Do you
You-
really, or
you-
do you not?
Correct.
Like,
I'm like, I genuinely think Shrek 2 is a great movie. I genuinely think Shrek Forever After is a
I
great
do
movie.
actually think most of the memes are obsessed. Like Shrek is a genuinely good series. I don't
Right.
think people are memeing it because it's laughable.
it's not like a B
No.
movie.
No,
Yeah.
It's
right.
not like the B movie when people say like, "Oh, I really like a B movie." It's like,
Yeah.
no,
No, you
you're
don't.
being
You just-
silly.
You're
Yeah.
being silly.
Ah,
But the
there you
Shrek
go.
one, I think it did originally come from a place of these kids grew up with these Shrek movies and they like them.
Yes,
But then I think that Shrek became this, like, it got away from everybody on the internet. And part of it is like that Garfield art you just described. I've
Yeah.
seen like, Shrek fan art and that kind of stuff where it's like, what if we take this thing that's very PG and take it to a dark place and then it went from there?
But here's here's why I think it works really well for Shrek.
Okay.
Is because while yes, I do think Shrek 2 is a very good movie. The
Shrek
first
3 is
the
not.
first Shrek is
Great.
To me, it was kind of like, whoa, I can't believe they're doing this.
Yeah.
Now that we've had 30 or 40 years of, animated films since then, it's like 70 or 80 years, however long it's been since Shrek came out, Steamboat Shrek or whatever. Now
we're now post-modernism of the animated films.
And so I think when you go back and you watch the Shrek films, one of the things that will make it extremely memeable is the fact that they threw in a lot of quick, cheap memes and pop culture references.
You're right.
Like the
into
O.J.
film.
Simpson one?
Yeah, there's the O.J. Simpson one. There's
Wait, what was the O.J. Simpson
There's
one?
Fiona doing the Matrix kick just to do a Matrix kick.
That's true.
The O.J. Simpson one was when they took
With
the
the
potion,
Bronco?
the white Bronco.
Yeah.
They did the news chase.
And then they did Cops, and then they did
Yeah.
yeah.
So
You're
they
right.
do a lot of that stuff just to do it.
Yeah.
To the point where I think it goes almost towards like this is a fun parody pastiche movie.
Well, also,
Yes.
But it does have some heart to it.
It's still genuine, but it's kind of like Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Was it the parody pastiche? But I think Austin Powers has enough of like, well, there's a sincere story in
but
here.
there's also, I remember for a time when there was like way too many parody movies. to
I know,
begin
like
with.
The Naked Gun.
Yeah.
But that's the
all
thing
that
is,
stuff. Yeah.
No, that was good. I'm talking about
right.
You're talking about scary movie.
Yeah,
Epic
stuff like
movie.
that.
Epic movie, superhero movie.
Yeah.
That
You're
stuff.
like, calm down.
There's like a
Yep.
there's like one side which is, your Austin Powers
Yep.
or your Naked Gun.
They take care.
And then there's the other side,
The disaster movie.
which
or
is
some
disaster
shit.
movie.
Where they
And
did it in
then
a month
I think
or whatever.
Shrek's somewhere in
Yeah.
the middle, and it makes it very easy to be like, I love this, but I'm also going to do a Muscle Daddy Shrek meme, and that's cool too.
and really make fun of it.
My
Yeah.
also other theory is that it hasn't, also because of streaming services, there also hasn't been like a lot of memorable movies since
Oh, yeah.
that era. Like that era movies, like the early 2000s to like the mid
To now.
2000s, it's good. And then after that, it's like I can't name a movie in the last.
Nobody's memeing Inside Out.
Yeah, like and then
Yeah.
also like Barbie movie, I think is the only movie that's somewhat like you can quote it. And
It
people
grabbed on.
remember it. in
It
the
Well,
grabbed
last-
going to movies now for memes and parody is
Mhm.
tough because movies take time and effort.
Mhm.
And if I want a meme
Yeah.
or a goof, somebody can put it on TikTok and it's going to be just as funny usually
Mhm.
as a meme or a goof in something like Not Another Teen Movie.
Mhm.
That's
Shout
actually
out to a terrible movie with a great soundtrack,
Yep.
Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh my God.
Mwah.
so good.
What's
Yeah, or
up?
like you go see the Minecraft movie and they're putting stuff in there that they're like, we hope this takes off on TikTok. We hope
Mhm.
that somebody's recording this.
Yes.
And it's like, well, talking about time and money, how much millions of dollars were put into like something like that in a film like that, which is fun and weird and cool, versus people doing it at home
Yeah.
for $0 and it's just
It's the
as
same thing with crowd work,
yeah.
with stand-up comedy.
Oh, crowd work.
Tell me about
Listen,
it.
this is not
Tell me about it.
Listen, this is not a comedy theory podcast, but
The comedy theory podcast.
but I'll tell you what.
Should be.
But this is a Garfield theory podcast.
It is. I loathe, and I can only imagine how you feel. I loathe what crowd work has done to
Yeah.
being a stand-up
People
comic.
just are like,
Yeah.
if I get that one good clip, that's all that matters.
But to me, the people are doing. It's like we started off talking about, like the Cinema Sins thing or the angry
Yeah.
video game nerd thing. I feel like comedians doing crowd work is like me going into a children's karate class. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not
and beating
fair.
the shit out of the children.
Yeah, it's
for sure,
not
for sure.
fair for me to show up to an 8-year-old's karate class and be like, "Yeah, let's spar, kid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's go."
Mhm.
And so I think the love of crowd work, it's the easiest thing in the world to do as a
Well,
comic.
Mhm.
It's you're saying something inappropriate and now I get to be mean to you to shut you up. I can do
Mhm.
that very easily.
or just ask
Let's-
what you do for money and then
Yeah.
make fun of it.
Let's
Mhm.
not turn it into that though, because what's the fun of
It's
that?
more like people care more about the reactive stuff now than
Yeah.
they do about the authenticity.
Well,
Authenticity.
If you want to get
Authenticity.
if you want to get really, really honest,
Let's get real.
if you want to get really, really honest,
You're like, I think you're a terrible comic.
you're not great. You should do more crowd work
You know what's funny?
because the stuff that you do, not solid.
First time I met Lisa in person
Yeah.
was in Tokyo, in Japan,
Yep.
at that comedy club. She was doing stand-up. She did crowd work. She asked my girlfriend, "What's your favorite video game?" And that's great crowd work. What's your
Yeah.
favorite video game? And she said Legend of Zelda. And then Lisa did a whole bit on Zelda. And it was great.
And it wasn't about how your girlfriend is dumb for liking
Yeah,
Zelda.
yeah.
It was about Zelda. The first time I saw Lisa, it was in Tokyo in Wyoming.
What?
Which was
Cool.
like a completely different vibe.
Also,
Completely different vibe.
did you also go get sushi afterwards?
I
We
did.
did.
I
Yeah.
did. And it was from a Wawa, and it was
Yeah.
not
And
great.
it was
It was
just-
not great.
It was just Cheetos on rice.
That's
It was
right.
Crazy.
Cool.
Every time I go to the grocery store and I see the sushi that has like the flaming hot Cheetos on top of it,
Mhm.
I'm just like,
That's Lisa.
they know that I'm going to have to buy this.
Yeah,
at some
yeah.
point. They know that at
I-
some point I have to do this.
I checked to see if the sushi chef is still there in the grocery store. And if it's a Mexican dude, I'm like, that's going to be fire. That's going to be
yeah.
really good.
This
I'll
guy
buy
is
it.
hooking me up.
But no, if you want to get deadly serious about why the internet is like this,
Yeah.
it has to do entirely with Facebook and research that Facebook did early on,
Yep.
where they added the like button
Mhm.
and they found out
Oh.
because people weren't commenting, and then people weren't posting because they felt like their friends weren't interacting with the things that they were posting.
Mhm.
And so the like button was the easiest way to get
Boop.
reaction. And all of a sudden people were posting. But they found that what people really want is to get angry.
Yep.
What people really they did all of their research and they went, oh, the stuff that gets the most reaction
And
is the
interaction.
stuff
Yeah.
that makes people go, hey, no, that's not right. I have to say something about this.
Yeah, if you
Mhm.
look at, I always know when my clips go viral because the entire audience will change.
Mm-hmm.
It's like first it's great,
Oh.
and then it's people like your parents suck and blah blah blah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is where we're at now.
Yeah. Same thing
Yeah.
happened.
That's
Me-
the thing.
Yeah.
When you open yourself up
People
to
tell
a
your
wider
parents
and
that.
wider audience, you get introduced to more and more people who are not going to like your opinions or your content. And
then those things get highlighted
Yeah.
because they're like, this is getting the most engagement, and that's all they care about.
and
is
so now you get
engagement.
tons of crowd work because people are like, haha, yeah, get him.
Yep.
Get him.
Yeah.
That'll teach him.
Yeah.
By the way, Lisa, your parents are great.
they are. They're
Yeah,
good.
your parents are
Yeah,
lovely.
Don't listen to that
they're
hateful
just-
internet.
Yeah, how dare they?
They're
right?
cool gamers.
Yeah, they're gamers. They play Zelda and Pac-Man.
Every time Lisa's parents are around, I walk in, I go, what's up, gamers?
Yep.
And they
I go, rise and grind, gamers.
and they go, hell yeah, dog.
Yeah. Hell
That's
yeah,
how
dog.
they respond.
That's
They
right.
go, Tony, because they've
That's
known you
right.
since before you were 9.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I give them V-Bucks every
Yeah.
time they come into town. They love V-Bucks.
So-
those two.
V-Bucks.
It felt like you wanted to talk about something else, and you used Garfield as a funny example, and then we completely
I
dragged
still want
you.
to talk about
No,
Garfield.
we
To
can
talk
still
about
talk about
Garfield.
no. And here's the thing: is I don't know
Sorry.
that I have anything to talk about because even you and
You
I
don't
were
have-
talking about video games.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: like the kind of video games I'm really obsessed about is
Yeah.
like I'd like to talk about the video games that like really came out around the beginning of 3D when no one knew how to make video games, and they're all bad and terrible. And like there's one specific series that I'm very into right now called the Simple 2000 series. I don't know if you've heard
Oh,
of it.
no.
The Simple
The
2000?
Simple 2000 series came out around the PlayStation 2, and the idea was it was called Simple 2000 because every game cost 2,000 yen, $20. These were $20 games. And the only games, there are hundreds of volumes of this. Simple 2000 Volume 1, Volume 2. I would love to have a complete set of Simple 2000.
I think you could do it for PS2. They're only $20 a pop.
But the games that came out that really hit are awful.
oh,
they're
no.
Miserable, and I love them. They're games like Oni-chan-bara, which I don't know if you've heard of Oni-chan-bara. That Oni-chan-bara basically means like little sister samurai.
Sick.
It's little sister sword fighter, and it's
You could have given me 1,000 guesses of what Oni-chan-bara
Mhm.
meant in Japanese, and I wouldn't have gotten to Little Sister Samurai.
yeah, because it's Oni-chan and then Chanbara, which is sword fighting. So Oni-chan-bara is bikini samurais who fight zombies, and the game is awful. It's
Yeah.
terrible, but it
It
was
sounds
so
great on paper.
successful. It was so
I need to know
successful,
what
it
it-
became its own series.
I need to know what
Oh.
this looks like.
And
too.
now you know it as the Dead or Alive series.
No, it's still called Oni-chan-bara.
Okay, great.
And you can get it, like there was one for the Switch.
Lisa, why are you using your phone like that?
One of the
'Cause,
second
like, the mic's in the way.
one of the second ones, because she doesn't want to get tech neck. She doesn't want to get tech neck.
Oh, is this it?
Yeah, that's the PS4
That's
one.
a
me see.
PS4 one. Obviously.
Oh,
you
you're
can't
talking
go on
PS2.
camera.
Yeah,
You're talking
it started
PS.
on the PS2.
Go PS2.
But
Add
some of
PS2
the
now.
other entries into the Simple 2000 series, like one was called Machine Maid. And this is a maid.
Oh boy.
With a machine gun.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
Oni-chan
these are
Bara.
rough. They got the scary PS2 eyes.
Well, so that's my favorite
That's
thing
just the
about
cover.
it. Is
Yeah, I'm sure the game looks like this.
No way.
it's supposed to be sexy, right? But it's sexy in that PS2 way where it's like their bodies are 4 polygons, and when anybody bends their arm, it looks like a melted otter pop in the wrapper.
Yeah.
You know, like it just
Ugh.
changes their entire.
It was like before they could get the mocapping down too. So just like, why does everyone look surprised?
Yeah. And all of their games that were breakout hits,
Yeah.
except for one that you probably know, and we'll get into it. But the other ones that broke out were Machine Maid,
Okay.
which is a hot maid with a machine gun.
Cool.
And then Demolition Girl. Demolition Girl is a girl that grows to 50 feet tall in a bikini
Sweet.
and has to fight monsters and the government
I'm
and the
obsessed with
military. And it looks terrible. And they're releasing these, and they're
Were they localized?
Or
Or are they-
Oni-chan Bara was.
Okay.
But the others, I believe the first Demolition Girl came out in Europe, but not in
So
America.
is Simple 2000s the production studio, the licensor?
Simple 2000 is the series made by this developer.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
And then it was published by different people in different territories.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love is like all the things that took off are like sexy girl games.
Oh, I
Of
see.
course.
But but like even at the time where they were coming out, I was like,
They're not sexy.
who thinks this
Yeah.
is sexy? Like this is not sexy.
Do you know
These
what's
are-
the
these
sexiest
are 80
organ?
polygons.
The brain.
Yeah.
Anthony. So that's what's sexy is that people are using their imagination.
That's right.
You
They're
tell me the
imagining
premise?
talking to these women.
Yep.
They're imagining talking to
They're
Demolition Girl.
getting
Yep.
stomped on by Demolition
Mhm.
Girl.
Yep.
The only game that was a quote unquote real game that came out of the Simple 2000 series that's still going on today is Earth Defense Force.
Wow. Wait.
Earth Defense Force started off as a Simple 2000 game.
I know. I've heard that.
And
I know
that's why
this.
Earth Defense Force still looks and feels like trash when you play it.
Wow.
That's so cool. Somebody brought up Earth Defense Force, I think, on my last stream because I said I wanted to play old PS2 games.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Because I mean, Chrono Trigger's not a PS2 game, but I was like, I want to go another retro route.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned that, and I was like, maybe.
Mhm.
We'll
So,
see.
Do you have a how are you playing these? Are you doing like emulators? Are you doing like do you have like discs? Or you have like a region free PS2?
So I have for most consoles,
Yeah.
I have the original console.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about something I am dorky about,
Yes,
that's not going
please.
to turn your entire audience off because it's not
Cool.
sexual Garfields.
Cool.
Um,
You know what? We're going to name the episode Sexual Garfield now. So-
Please do. I have every console that I own.
Mhm.
I restore myself, and then I usually will put in some sort of hardware modification or software modification
Mm.
that allows me to play the games off of SD cards or hard drives or things like that. Because a lot of these consoles now are they're dying.
Did you
Yeah.
ask if you had a Polymega?
No, I want to. I was getting there.
I've
think-
spoiled it. Sorry.
I'm not the hugest fan of the Polymega
Go for it. Get into it.
because I'm not. Number one, I don't have a huge physical collection of games anymore.
Right.
And to me, it seems like the fun is like you put in each individual disc and it like reads the disc and it's like, I've read your disc and now it's on the hard drive.
Yeah, that's
Look
fun.
at all the things you own.
Yeah.
There's something about cataloging and saving things that really like flips a switch in a lot of people's brains. You know what I mean?
I love doing it though.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people do. Like I remember as a kid, my dad had 2 VCRs. We were one of the people that had 2 VCRs.
Awesome.
You rent a movie,
Yep.
you put it in one
Yep,
VCR,
and then you record it
you
on the
tape
other.
it to the other one
Blank
at like
tape.
at the slow speed, so you can get
Mhm.
6 movies on one tape. They look
Mhm.
like shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then what my dad would do is he had a binder where he indexed and organized every movie that we had on VHS. And I would go to the binder and look things up based on like, and he would cross-reference it based on, it was like a database. He would do it based
Get
on
it?
genre.
Database?
It was a daddy base.
Daddy base.
And it
So
was,
wait, this is a binder that didn't have the VHSs crammed in there. This was just a binder with like pieces of paper that then you'd have to go to your VHS library and go, oh, I want to watch Star Wars A New Hope.
he
That's
had
on tape
created-
12.
He had created his own sort of Dewey Decimal
Yes.
system for
Daddy
our,
decimal
a
system.
Dewey Daddy Decimal system. So like
This is awesome.
kids tapes were started off as K.
Oh.
So like, you know, we knew that anything that was on K
Yeah.
was specifically for us.
Yeah.
But then he had stuff like, I forget what his system was for different like genres and stuff.
Sure.
But then you could also look up the movie by genre, by star, by director.
Oh my God.
Because he was an engineer, and we also were one of the first people in the neighborhood to get a computer. And so when he found out what a database can do, what a daddy base can do,
Just flashback to like 1992. He's at the computer, like punching like one at a time. Like,
It is
oh,
kinda
great.
sad when you think about like
It's awesome.
being millennials, we got to see the rise of this thing being more organized,
Mhm.
more compact, and now it's like, oh, well, now physical stuff barely matters now.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
but,
like there's such big waves.
but also every time somebody from the baby boomer generation goes, how come there are so many autistic people today? I go, hey man, let me show you the binder of bootleg VHS tapes that you put into various categories in a database.
You were undiagnosed, my dad.
Hey dad? Hey dad.
According to Jim Carrey, vaccinations caused autism. That's
Yeah.
why everyone's autistic.
Do you
now.
remember that for a
Mhm.
while Jim Carrey was being like very, very public about not just the vaccine thing, but the fact that he wouldn't use a cell phone without a wired headset
gosh.
Yes.
because the radio
Yeah.
waves.
Yeah, man.
Or going through like the pat-me-downs in the airport because you don't want the radio. It's like,
Sure.
what is going on?
Sure, man.
Hey,
Kill me faster. That's
Mhm.
really my
Sure.
my life.
This is
Uh,
gonna nuke my brain. Yeah, I'll stay here.
yeah. So I mean, so I don't do the physical
It
stuff
reminds
as
you.
much
It
anymore.
reminds you of your dad too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, I have
You're not a librarian, is
I
what
have
you're
daddy
saying.
issues around collecting things.
Yeah,
No,
and logging, and you don't want to do that kind of stuff.
it's not a fun part of it to me.
It's so fun for
See,
me.
my dad.
I understand
Yeah,
that,
for
and
sure.
I get it.
And I get that it's not fun for
But
you.
to me, it's like, hey, if I've got a folder on my hard drive that's all the PS2 games and
Great.
they're in alphabetical order,
Great, done,
I'm just gonna look it up.
done,
Whatever game I want to play, I'm gonna look up.
done.
There
Yeah.
are some systems that I have physical games for, but I don't use those physical games.
My dad started replacing all of our VHSs with DVDs, and I went
Yeah.
back there in December, and now he's getting those VHSs back. And
Why?
So it's like, I also want the VHS.
Aw.
I'm so sad I got rid of the VHSs, and now
You know-
he's rebuying the VHSs, and I was just like,
I think there needs to be like a physical media company. Let's stay on just movies for a second. I think there needs to be like a movie DVD or Blu-ray company that comes out and goes, not only are we like remastering this movie or whatever and putting it out on DVD and Blu-ray, not DVD, Blu-ray for you. But
Mhm.
if you click on this, we're going to put on the special features the same commercials and trailers that were on the VHS version coming soon to theaters.
there
So
are
you could
some
just
that do that.
but not enough. But there needs to be like,
Not
hey,
enough.
here's a company that is like
I know
advertising
Wayne's World does that.
Wayne's World.
Yeah, the Wayne's World DVD has like the old commercials. on
Really?
there. Yeah. it's-
See, I
The
love
well,
that.
DVDs still had features, but are you talking about like the new?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
It was like they kept the old
I love it.
commercials of when
I love it.
on the
Do it.
VHS that they had.
I remember there was an episode of Gilmore Girls that
Mhm.
broke my brain a little bit because just really briefly, a character in Gilmore Girls was like, the mom, Lorelai, was like, we're going to watch these old episodes of 21 Jump Street, the old Johnny Depp show. And then her daughter said that to a friend, and the friend was like, "Are you VHS? Why aren't you watching it on DVD?" And then the daughter, Alexis Bledell's character, was like, "Well, my mom taped them, and they have all the commercials from the '80s, from when and that's part of the experience. We sit down to watch the show, and then the commercial breaks are the same as the '80s."
There
thing.
is
That's great.
There is a subgenre of YouTube that is incredibly popular.
I've seen it.
That is just like 1 hour of commercial breaks from this state
Yep.
from this year.
Yep.
And people are like,
Gets in their brains.
I remember the
Yep.
commercial for this car dealer. And on one level, I'm like, it's wonderful that we can go back to this. And on
Yeah.
another level, it's like, hey man,
We don't need that.
You can forget about the
This is
car
also-
dealership commercial.
I mean, like-
that doesn't need to be in the
What was-
Library of
What was-
Congress
Right,
of your
right.
mind. Like
Right.
that's okay.
Crazy
Right.
is everyone knows who Bill Nye is, but I
Yeah.
knew Bill Nye as the
Almost live.
Almost Live. He was the speedwalker.
What is that?
So Bill Nye the Science Guy was originally a character off of Almost Live, which is a Seattle-based SNL.
Mm-hmm.
He was also the Speedwalker, which was a superhero name because
The reason,
Seattle.
yeah. And it was like funny making fun of like the people in Seattle that were speed walking in the 90s with like the gel that like marathon runners have.
Was
He was also the high five and white guy.
He was a comedian.
He was a comedic actor on an SNL and a local version of a variety show.
And the only reason I know it is because for a couple of years before Comedy Central was Comedy Central, it was the TV comedy network.
Yeah.
And they were trying to just fill the air. And Almost Live was on like every day.
Phil Hartman was on there too.
Mm-hmm.
In Seattle?
Yeah, it was great.
Was this pre or post SNL?
This was, SNL's been around forever. But
I'm saying when Phil Hartman was on SNL.
Oh, this is way before.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and the guy.
But it kept going after.
The guy
like
who
it was
does
a Seattle mainstay.
Yeah, and the guy who does the voices in Super Smash Brothers, Pat Cashman, was also the main character, and he sings the Bill Nye theme song. So the Bill Nye the Science Guy theme song is sang by the announcer from the Super Smash Brothers
I love
Melee.
that. This is like
choose your character.
That's him.
Yeah, so the same guy who sings
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah.
Bill.
We have commercials from when we were kids because on PBS before Bill Nye got big, he would do these like 5-minute segments in commercials on PBS of like teaching kids something. And that's how
he did it on Almost Live too. Yeah. He would do science demonstrations in the middle of Almost Live, but they were made for adults. They were like comedic science things for grown-ups.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like learning that Elmo started.
And then there was this really good commercial for this one car dealership. And that's important to see.
Yeah.
It's important that we save it.
It was like Phil Hartman was like a guest, but like so were a bunch of big comedians during that time.
This is Seattle area?
Yeah, and there was Seattle.
Did Bobcat Goldthwait come from there?
Probably.
Tom Kenny?
Probably.
Carlos Alazraqui? I feel like they were Seattle guys, weren't they?
Tom Kenny, if I'm correct, comes from a pineapple under the sea.
You're right, actually. You're right.
It was late 80s, early 90s comics would come on to Almost Live when they were like in town or doing jobs.
This is blowing my mind. This is like finding out that Elmo actually got a start on Def Comedy Jam and then went to Sesame Street. Like, are you telling me that Bill Nye wasn't like a children's like educational, you know what I mean? Like TV person that's got to start there because he cared about kids.
He also came to my elementary school and did demonstrations because his brother was a teacher there.
Oh, well, that checks
or his
out.
Cousin.
That makes a lot of
Mr.
just like Optimus Prime's voice. Peter Cullen's like brother was in like the military, and he looked up to his brother, and that's where the voice of Optimus Prime came from. And like, I love that. Isn't that
Does
great?
Peter Cullen's brother sound like Optimus Prime?
I think so. He was like kind of doing an impression to him as to what his brother was like.
Whoa!
So it's this very heroic person. Isn't that the best stuff when you hear that stuff? You're like, that's the greatest.
Imagine going to Thanksgiving dinner, and it's just like, oh, your older brother's home for Thanksgiving. Yeah. Hello, family. Yeah. I'm back, and I require mashed potatoes.
Like, we get it, okay? No, but we have old VHSs of like when we used to tape Pokemon, and there was Bill Nye commercials in there. Or
I love that.
You're like, fast forward.
Yeah, right.
Boo this man.
Yeah. And
get to the rap.
And now he's widely famous, but all of Bill Nye the Science Guy was filmed in King County, where I was from.
You know what else? Do you guys ever think that he's kind of bummed that he can't go back to doing like more comedic stuff, that he has to be always kind of PG?
I think this is
he's probably happy, right?
Whenever I see an interview with him,
yeah,
particularly now, like he does seem like he's very passionate about scientific issues.
Yeah.
But
he's chilled out a little bit.
I think what he regrets the most is that because he was a children's show host for so long, it's hard to get adults to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're millennials.
That's what it sounds like to me. Because he's always like, I've been trying to say climate change for years. Although
he goes to the Senate and they don't listen to him.
He becomes Shrek.
Do you want to get into some deep Bill Nye lore of growing up in Orlando?
Yes, because you're from Orlando.
He was actually evil Bill Nye in Orlando.
He was, because here's what's up. They just retired this ride. It's a ride called the Universe of Energy.
Oh no.
The Universe of Energy.
Sounds boring.
It was one of my favorite rides. It is boring.
Okay,
It's a 45-minute educational ride about energy.
Awesome.
And when I was a kid, it was like very old school announcers and all this stuff. And my favorite part of the ride is when they teach you that oil comes from dinosaurs.
Yes.
You go through prehistoric and you see dinosaurs. Best part of the ride.
Hell yeah.
Kids forget the other 30 minutes that's like educational films of
they're just like,
this is how like solar power happens.
Yeah, who cares?
Here's a hydroelectric dam. I'm like, no, you go to this one part, dog, and it's totally worth it because there's a dinosaur there.
Is it the same dinosaurs that are behind the thing in the Disneyland Railroad when you go to Disneyland.
Like
and
a big, yeah, like they're very, like, they're cool, but you can tell, like, these are not scientifically sound.
Cool.
But around when I was in like high school, it swapped over to being Ellen DeGeneres and the Universe of Energy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And Ellen DeGeneres falls asleep and has a dream, like almost like the Simpsons sketch about a world without zinc.
Oh no.
Like
Oh
zinc
Troy
come back.
McClure.
Oh my God.
Where like Ellen doesn't know where energy comes from, and Bill Nye shows her.
Okay, cool.
And there's this thing at the end, and I know he's never spoken about it, but I know he must regret it. There's a thing at the end where he's got her in a helicopter, and he's like, here's hydroelectric and solar power. And she's like, oh, wow, that's really amazing. Is everything going to be hydroelectric and solar? He's like, well, we can't get quite enough power from it. So we do, like, it's fun as a secondary source,
Yeah.
but good old oil is always going to be here for us. Because all of the rides at
no.
Epcot are sponsored by companies.
Yep.
And it was an Exxon-sponsored ride. And you know that for like 20 years, Bill Nye was getting checks every month
Yeah.
from Disney World.
Yeah.
And just looking at the checks and going, why?
Yep.
I've sold my soul.
Sucks.
I've sold my soul. Because there was that whole documentary about him going up against climate change.
Yep.
It's been his whole thing for the last 10 years. And he's
Yep.
just getting checks from Exxon.
That
every
might
month.
have been the pinpoint of his career where he's like, I can't do this shit anymore.
Might have
Maybe.
been.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might have been where he was in the helicopter with Ellen, and somebody from behind the camera is like, now, Bill, try saying that solar energy
Right.
is actually garbage from a butt.
He's like, but it's not.
Try saying that it's trash on fire, Bill.
But it's good. It's,
No,
it's good.
Bill, what I need you to say is that the sun goes through moods, and we can't count on it.
That's not accurate.
I'm actually genuinely excited for you to literally go home and Google Bill Nye now, because I know
will.
you're going to.
I will.
I know you're going to.
You're
deep
gonna
dive.
watch. You're gonna watch the Universe of Energy, and you're gonna be like, Anthony, this is the most boring
Yeah.
ride I've
You're
ever
like,
seen.
Tony,
Somebody,
I hated this ride.
somebody recorded it and put it on YouTube, right? The
Mhm.
full 40-minute
Oh,
ride.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
The only thing I remember of Bill Nye the Science Guy, other than his show, which I also grew up watching,
Mhm.
is that there was a I can't remember what company it was. You know those like it wasn't like Cribs or like MTV Cribs or whatever, but maybe it was like Variety or something. But like, come to my house or apartment, I'll give you a tour of my
Sure.
space. And Bill Nye, I think, has an apartment in New York City, like a really nice apartment. So some like, you know, like Variety or
Architectural Digest
whatever,
or Vogue,
come
or
and checking out
whatever,
his
yeah.
like really nice apartment in New York. And as he was giving the tour, I remember this because it went viral for a second, that he was like, oh, this is the living room, this is this, here's the TV. And then they got to the bedroom and he's like, here's the bedroom. You'll notice that there's no TV in here. And then he said, that's because you don't need a TV in the bedroom because of what you do in the bedroom. Let's move on to that. And people were like, Bill Nye fucks? What? Don't do that. Like, don't admit that.
He's
and he's
actually
like,
just doing science experiments.
yeah,
in his
it's just in
bedroom.
the
That's right.
beakers,
No
like,
no distraction.
honey, pass the phosphate or whatever.
Do
Yeah.
you want to know my favorite moment like that from my life?
Yeah,
My
go ahead.
favorite moment like that from my life is when I was living in Brooklyn. I walked by almost every day
Yeah.
this dude who was just like sitting right before I went to work. He would always sit around like 4 o'clock on his stoop and just
4
smoke-
a.m.?
Like
Or
no,
4 p.m.?
4 p.m. I was going into a restaurant. to
Okay,
work.
thank you. Okay, nighttime work.
Yeah, I was going to a restaurant to work, and he would always be sitting out on his stoop and just getting high at 4 p.m. And it took about a month before I realized that dude was Steve from Blue's Clues,
Awesome. Awesome.
who had like just gotten done with Blue's Clues.
I
And
know.
like, I don't know if you know the full story of this guy, but he wound up like joining the Flaming Lips. He's
Yeah.
like part of
Yeah.
the Flaming Lips, and
He's
he
like
like
a-
directs
He's a musician.
things for
He's
them.
like a
Yeah.
cool ass dude.
He's
I know.
amazing. Yeah, he seems chill as hell. And when I realized who he was, I was just like, "Hey, what's up, Steve?" And he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like,
Awesome. Totally normal. Totally
I feel like
cool.
It's a very
Yeah.
Brooklyn story.
I love that. That's great.
So funny.
That's another dude that I also like. Whatever that dude's been through, I'm in his corner.
Mhm.
I will go to bat for Steve.
That's me with Weird Al Yankovic.
If
Yeah.
he, because, right,
There
same.
you go.
If Weird Al ever came out like, fuck all of you, you'd be like, I
Sure.
agree with him, dude. Like, if
No.
Steve was ever like, I'm done with the shit, fuck you guys, fuck them kids, I'd be like, he's earned a break.
he's right.
He's right.
Fuck
Leave him alone.
us.
But the fact that he's so sincere and
Yeah.
genuine and he does videos like, hey, just wanted to check in with you. Hope you're doing okay. You know, and he knows how important, he knows like,
Yeah.
he does conventions now and these adults come up to him and they're like, I went through a horrific thing when I was a kid. You know, he's heard all of that. So he knows the importance. I'm just saying, if he were ever to be like, you know, do
Yeah.
something kind of heinous, I'd be like, give the guy a break, man.
Give the
He's-
guy a
Yeah.
break.
He's
Just
just
don't
human.
be Me Too'd and you're fine.
Yeah,
wanna
exactly.
say-
There you go.
Then I'm not in his corner.
I wanna say
Anything other than that.
The first was the first Flaming Lips album he worked on Zyreka? The
I
one
don't
where
know,
the one that
man.
had like
You're trying to bring her
it
back
had,
to
like,
the albums.
multiple
I think Anthony wanted to talk about music
The
today.
best
Just
albums.
kidding.
the best albums.
Yeah.
No, Zyreka is just interesting because it was recorded on 4 CDs that you had to play at once
What?
in 4 different CD players.
How do you do
And
that
so
on
people,
iTunes?
Well,
How
people would have like Zyreka parties where you would try to start all 4
Oh.
That
CD
was
players
our Pink Floyd.
or
That's
all
there.
4
cool.
iPods at the same time.
That's cool.
And the dude Wayne Coyne originally wanted it on 10 CDs, and Warner Brothers Records was just like, "You're insane.
We'll give you 4.
We will not do that for you."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double album, but a quadruple
It was a
album. but you have
quadruple
to-
album, but it wasn't like a double album because a double album is like
You listen to one side,
it was,
you listen to
it
the
was
other.
yeah, it was two
Yeah.
albums worth of songs. This is you have to listen to all 4 CDs at the same
So
time.
is there a version that where somebody compressed them all into
There's a
one and you
mixed
can
down
just hit
version for
play
sure,
and you can
yeah.
okay.
Wow, that's very Kojima
That's
of them.
cool.
It's extremely everything they do is high concept.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Like they didn't have an album for 10 years because they were working on an album on a movie called Christmas on Mars, which Steve from
I've
Blue's Clues
seen-
directed, I believe.
Did it come out?
It did come out finally.
I'm
And
expecting
Final.
it to be in 3D or something. Is it something cool
it
and
was just
innovative
weird.
about it?
It was just
Okay, cool.
weird. And they were just
Cool.
like, we're not going to do anything until we're done with Christmas on Mars.
Cool.
I love some weird shit though.
Me
Yeah.
too.
You know what? Good for him.
Well-
I'm glad he's doing good.
Yeah, I agree. Should we introduce our guest?
well, today's guest. No. Honestly, this
We should
is-
thank our guest.
I mean, thank you, Anthony, for Anthony
Thank you.
Carboni.
This
Tony
was
Carboni for
this was
joining
probably
us.
the most unfocused
podcast.
podcast
still
that's
pretty
ever
good, right?
happened.
Honestly,
Pretty good,
it's
right?
great. I didn't have to.
I should have come with a thing prepared instead of 3 things
You
that
know
I was
what?
worried
I learned
about.
a lot about sexual Garfield, and
mhm.
Hector learned about Bill Nye.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's so cool.
Yeah, and now you should watch his old improv videos from Almost Live. They're pretty cool.
I will. I would love to. And also, thank you again for bringing Dagger.
Of course.
Yeah, he's
And
not in
you're-
the camera. Hopefully, we can get a little cameo of Dagger.
No, he's like absolutely
Listen,
not.
This podcast is less pressure, and I love it. Comedian podcast, it's like, when are you gonna say something funny? You know,
Oh.
but you're
Yeah,
just
thanks for never saying anything
Yeah.
funny.
yeah, yeah.
You're just such-
I was going to
Really
say
you're
cool.
such a naturally
Great format for
you're
you,
such a
too.
naturally,
Really cool, yeah.
You're really a naturally funny person.
Take some pressure off
and
us.
we really appreciate you letting us be the funny ones today.
Oh. Oh no, that's what you think happened.
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
no.
this episode will probably be out in like 4 weeks because we're bi-weekly. So is there anything you want to like talk about or pitch or anything?
4 weeks from now, I will be coming back from Japan against my will.
Yeah.
So no, I'll have
Are
nothing.
you going to collect
nothing.
all of the what was it? The 20,000 yen series?
Oh, the simple. Oh man,
Get them all.
it would be a good time to get all the
Get
simple
'em.
2000s.
Get them in Japan.
Yeah, by the time this
Maybe I
episode's
will.
out, we'll have all the simple 2000s ready
There
available.
were like 100 volumes or something of it. It's a lot.
Get
I
them.
mean, that's like $200.
Yeah.
Math, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
100 times 20, $200.
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Dork Souls Podcast, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye.